Hey, hello and welcome to Plugin Along, a stream dedicated to LOTRO plugins. Last time on Plugin Along, we were working with the Festival Buddy 2 plugin, and we consolidated the Summer Festival into the Farmers Faire, which had been done several years ago in-game and was lagging behind in the plugin. And today we're going to look at a bug or two that we've seen in our house and maybe people have seen out in the wild, and then look at further improvements for Festival Buddy. We've already had one idea by, I think, Telerian on supporting multi-language /LOC commands, and we're going to look at other things as well. So, as always, feel free to jump into a chat with your thoughts and questions. In the meantime, we're hanging out here at Helm's Deep. We're just outside the where Theoden is standing around. We might get to, I don't know, a place where it looks a little bit more scenic. Can we get on top of this thing? Yeah. Awesome. Well, or we can fall into it. Alright. How OSHA approved is this? Wow, not very. Okay. Exciting. Yeah, maybe we'll just stand on top of the stairs then. Good enough. Okay. So, what are we looking at? We are, let's go ahead and switch over to my desktop view. We are looking at the Festival Buddy plugin, and there's some outstanding changes in my code directory that I want to look at first. But in case you're just joining us, Festival Buddy 2 is a plugin that aims to help you with whatever festival you happen to be working on at the moment. So for instance, with the Spring Festival, the top row is a list of festival tokens appropriate for this festival that you might have. And down below is a list of quests that are a part of this festival. So for instance, a fistful of flowers, and then there's information about that. And that brings us to the first change that I made since the last stream, which is the tokens were listed violets, marigold, and primroses on top, but in the helper text, they were in a different order, and that just seemed unnecessarily complicated. So let's go take a look at that outstanding change. Okay, so that's in quest strings. We can see it right here, and we're going to pull it open somewhere else. And we can see that was collect as many flowers as you can. It started with marigolds, and now we are saying start with violets. Does that make sense? Yes, we start with violets and then go to marigolds. Awesome. So it's just swapping out those two things there. And we do that for each of the English, French, and German. Now, we could have also just changed the order that they were displaying in the user interface. That might actually be an easier change. What would that look like? I was so focused on doing the one that I didn't really think about doing the other. So those are going to be in the tokens file. And we have two tables of information here. We have the actual IDs, the things that should be displayed, and we have the UI order. UI order might make sense. So what if we went ahead and said marigold was first instead of violet? 3, 4, 5. And instead of making that change to the assist, what if we just say, nope, never mind. We're going to save it here for a moment. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and leave the plugin manager up maybe this time. We'll see. Okay, so what do we see? We see marigolds, violets, and primroses, and marigolds, violets, and primroses. So we're in a pretty good state there. And because of the work we've done in the past, separating out the user interface ordering from how things are saved in the file, we can now reorder these tokens as much as we want, and it doesn't change what's going into the save file. So that's an easier solution that we can do now that we couldn't do maybe a month or two ago. So I think I'm good throwing away that change and just say, let's actually have some README changes. I don't know if I'd call it a bug. What are these? And that is helper text for, what is this? A fistful of flowers. So, for a cat watch, for anyone who's keeping track, Kato is just running back and forth and is now over by Little Redhead, and Casper is sitting on the couch just behind me. He's looking very nice back there. But I'm going to be blocking him with my body. We're going to be sliding couches around over the next couple of days, now that family's not here. So he's probably going to come a little bit more visible. We'll see. Okay, so updated token order. Order of Marigold and Violet tokens to match helper text for a fistful of flowers. Perfect. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and come in to the README file and accept that as well. And in fact, we can just use that as our commit text. Done. Okay, what else do we have? Don't need to worry about that. This is something we're going to be playing with later. Okay. Okay, this is a change that almost certainly only affects me, because I probably have some Festival Buddy plugins that are kind of in an intermediate state. But there's no harm in committing this check. This check is just, this is in main.lua, and at the end of loading the settings file for the current character, we are populating the selected festival from settings.festival. On my machine, for some of my characters, that value is a number, because some of my files have been like half transitioned from the old format to the new format. So on my machine, if that thing is a number, then that's a problem. But I don't think we need that in general. On the other hand, there's no harm in it. But I don't like this. I don't like this comment here. The global selected festival variable. Okay, and setting is missing equals not that. And local setting is not string equals. So local setting needs fixing equals setting is missing, or setting is not string. So that's kind of what we're trying to encapsulate with this. So if setting needs fixing, then settings.festival equals spring. And that's a variable that refers to the quoted string spring. And so that's maybe a little bit more fluent way of writing what we're trying to represent is if the setting needs fixing, and it needs fixing if the setting is missing or the setting is not a string, but that would look weird. So if the setting is not string, or if the setting is missing, then the setting needs fixing. And what does it mean for the setting to mean fixing? We just set it to a default value. Spring is the first thing in the list, so that's fine. We could, if we were feeling wild, have a table that lists these in some fashion. In fact, we do have a table like that. If we were to go into strings, we are in strings, we could find like the first entry of festivals, maybe. Except indexing the first entry when they're indexed by strings is actually really hard. So we're not gonna worry about that here. How do we organize that anyway? It's actually a question. How do we make sure those are in the right order? It's a festival UI order, of course. And that is maybe what we should do, is the first entry of festival's UI order, instead of just hard coding the spring. Default to the first festival in the list. Okay. So, if the setting needs fixing, then set settings.festival equal to the first of the festival's UI order table. Awesome. That makes sense. And then we use this global variable selected festival. I'm not a big fan of global variables. They have their place, but I'm especially not a fan of them when they're just copies of other global variables. And I have a note to myself that, like, what's even the point of this thing? Why do we have selected festival when we already had settings.festival? And I think part of the answer is, at a certain point, we weren't saving the current festival, maybe. But now we are saving the current festival, so what's the point of this thing? In fact, if we did a search for things that match the spelling and word boundaries of this, we can see my eliminates this thing, maybe. But there's a lot of places that want to know what is the current selected festival. In fact, we can see 88 entries, most of which are real uses. So obviously there's a desire to know what the current selected festival is. And changing selected festival to settings.festival doesn't really make a huge difference. So I guess I'd be tempted to do that, or replace the use of a global with a function that can sit in the middle between the two. Get selected festival, get current festival, something like that. Call it selected festival, get selected festival. But the upshot is now you have a function called getSelectedFestival instead of just saying selected festival, which, true, now you can print out stack traces whenever you're accessing this thing. Now you can put out debug statements if you need. You can have a little bit better auditing of who's calling this thing. But it's very obvious to know where selected festival or the other get selected festival function is, because it's a very distinct name. It's not like get data, where you might have 17 different things that are data. This is a unique name, and so we can already find all the uses of it. So the amount of effort it would take to convert it to something just doesn't feel certain that that would be a good use of time. So it's in my head that maybe we should not have that thing, but we do have that thing. Okay, so we have settings.festival, we're fixing that up, and then we copy whatever our fixed up value is into the global that we're going to use. And then when we save things, and let's see, if we go to the bottom, unload, we have save data. In our save data, that's going to be probably settings. That is patch data save. Well, that's a great question. When does that get persisted? I have a feeling it is whenever we change that dropdown. Festival DD festival. Yeah, there we go. Item changed. So when item change, we persist out selected festival. Well, we update selected festivals, and then we persist it back out to the global. It's just so bonkers. Okay. Gonna focus. Okay. So we have fixed, well, not fixed. We've gone ahead and made this code a little bit more fluent. Updated comment and variable names to make logic clearer. Note the check for setting is not string. It's probably only needed on the developer's machine. Cool. Now, this isn't really a fix that affects anyone. There's no visible reason to tell people about this. You know, fix some code that won't affect you doesn't really belong in a release note. So we're just going to go ahead and commit that as is. And cool. We're down to some new things I was playing with. You know, this music is very exciting, but I'm going to go ahead and turn that down just a little bit. Okay, so I was playing around with the ideas of a quick guide for spring. But I think at this point, spring's almost over, and I've played it so little that these are really just notes of what I might want to add in eventually. So I think we're going to go ahead and stash these. We're going to stash two files, start spring quick guide notes. We're going to save that. And we're just going to focus on bugs and real feature improvements. Spring is pretty straightforward for a lot of people. Okay, so we have a festival functions 90 attempt to index field question mark. That was reported by Little Redhead, who was running the festivity tokens instances and finding a problem. So let's go into festival functions Lua 90. Okay. Festival functions. That is here. And we're going for 90. Great. So, what's up? A festival key and a quest key. And this is settings in progress quests. So, this is referring to something you can see in, let's come into plugin data, Treebeard, and we're going to go look at Schildwacht. I know had some of these. Great. So these are ones that Schildwacht had these as 8 instead of Midsummer. These were unconverted, and I assumed that was a local thing, but it is possible that we missed some of that. So what we want to do is see if we can find any of these anywhere else. So we're going to come on in, add a folder. Cool. Let's find that. Oh, it was too broad. Okay. So we've done a recursive search, and we are seeing a bunch in older backups. I would like to not see those. Just a moment. I was adding a folder instead of deleting it. Awesome. Okay, so we have a number of these. Let's see if Affodil. Okay, we can see this is what it's supposed to look like: a quest name and the corresponding festival. And that's not necessary. Right at the moment, I think every quest name, every festival quest name is unique and can point to a specific festival on its own. But when you have a table with key value pairs, you kind of have a free piece of data that you can throw in there. If the main thing that you want is a key in that table, you can put whatever you want as the data. So if I said, okay, why don't I just put the associated festival? Super easy. So what I want to do is let's just search for anything else that might be assigned. Okay, nothing in there. Nothing in there. Oops. That might be the case for a number of these. Yep, empty. Because ideally you don't have any in-progress quests. You finish them off. But maybe you finish a festival and you forget. Okay, here we go. We can see Wenda. Wenda has problems. Has this file been updated? Version. It thinks it's version 2.0, so something went wrong with this upgrade process. Or it hit 2.0 before we thought that was done. So I think the basic answer is if Little Redhead was able to see this on her machine, then obviously there's a conversion process that's missing. Something went wrong with this. So what we want is we want to go ahead and save off this little chunk here. Just like that. And we're going to swap in this for whatever was actually in my character's data. So we can test the upgrading process and make sure we get it right this time. So let's go ahead and start making a 2.1 file format. Bugs. Bumped file format for character specific data to 2.1 to force a check of in progress quest data. I think that's a reasonable description. Now we just have to actually do it. So what we want to do is remember that when we're loading data, we are loading a couple of things. These are confusingly separated. Let's go ahead and split this a sec. So split down, sure. Okay, so what I want to do is we are loading a character. So character. So that was correct. Load files character. So server. This is at the server scope. Okay. Now we also have load file account. That's going to be at the account setting. All that is following the name so far. Awesome. And then we have load server-wide character data. And that's coming from server. And we also have that load saved image data, which we never actually do anything with. But if we did, I think that's at the account level. Yep, that's at the account level. So we go character, server, account, and then we load server-wide stuff, and then we load some account-wide stuff. And again, load saved image data needs to be deleted. I just haven't gotten to it yet. But I suppose we could do that. So we load saved image data. And then we populate saved images. So do we actually do anything? Get rid of that. It doesn't seem to do anything. Indeed. Table used when loading saved image IDs. It just doesn't seem to do anything. So if we go ahead and get rid of this, let's go ahead and add a README. Got rid of, no, I should say stopped generating empty plugin data file. In chat, X asks, hello, have the launch dates of the new legendary server appeared? Not that I know of, but my favorite place for this is for this kind of thing, is the LOTRO Events Schedule 2024 page, where that kind of thing tends to show up once it's been announced. So, I would say there's no legendary server launch on here. If anyone watching knows of a forum post that has announced it, or if it was announced in one of Cord's streams, which I've been missing recently, do pop up in chat. But to my knowledge, the answer is no. The last I heard was that the devs stated that they had something in mind and that they were planning on opening it up this year, but not specific dates. I'll go ahead and paste a link to that in chat, though, just in case you did not have it easily accessible. All right, you say thank you very much. No worries. Okay, so stop generating empty festival buddy images plugin data file, and that was in account. So that was all servers. But okay, so we're going to get rid of that. Saved images equals deep copy. So we're not going to bother with that, which means we don't need that. In which case, we're not actually doing anything with these here. We don't actually do that. That function, if we do it, if not that, we can just delete that. In which case, we don't actually need this local function. In which case, we don't need load saved image IDs. And I'm just going to go ahead and do a broader search. And there's that. Okay. Oh, Coolvich in chat says Cord said as much last Friday. Is that what Cord says, that they have ideas and it's coming this year, but no specific date? If so, I'm channeling my inner Cord very nicely. It's amazing when you're a software engineer how much time can pass between writing code that seems to work and it actually going out the door to a customer. Sometimes, for my day job, I'm a software engineer, and sometimes they'll be like, oh, there's this bug. Cool. Fixing the bug, finding it, fix it. Maybe it's a line or two of code, or maybe it's just a few characters different in one line of code. But the overall process of sending tested software out the door, packaged up, ready to be installed by a customer, is much larger than just tweaking a line of code if you have something that is installed in the customer's environment. If you just have a web page somewhere, maybe hopefully you have some sort of testing environment and a live environment and you're not pushing straight to live. But it feels like there might be a few fewer steps if you control where the program is run. But as soon as the program's going to someone else, it can just take a lot of extra steps. And so the amount of time between, we want to do the thing, and the amount of time between, until, oh, we have done the thing can vary a lot, and then, oh, we've done the thing, but how long until it's actually ready for public consumption? And it for people who are not used to that process, it can seem oddly long between, well, you have the thing, why can't I have the thing? Okay, so we have deleted a lot of things. We have an array called images. That's fine. But what we haven't done is actually test to see if this works. So what we want to do is we want to come into the plugin data. Different plugin data. Let's go ahead and open up into Documents, Lord of the Rings Online, plugin data, and we're just going to blow that away. So that file will never exist on this machine. We're going to load this up, unload, and try to load it up again. No real issues. Awesome. And importantly, if we go into all servers, we have the account setting, but we don't have that other one. Very cool. Okay, well that's been something I wanted to do for a little while, so that feels good to get it done. So get rid of, got rid of. So we're going to go ahead and stage that. What does that mean? We're getting rid of saved images. Awesome. We got rid of the saved images saving. We got rid of the load saved images function. And in here, I gotta say, we're gonna actually undo some of those changes we were doing, because we're just gonna go ahead and delete that. Save that. Awesome. So we got rid of the load saved image data there. Very cool. Anything else? We're gonna go ahead and just take that. Perfect. Okay, so we can come on back in here, resave where we were, and this is the reorganization that we were looking at. Now maybe it's a little bit less necessary. My instinct would be to put like with like, and maybe start at the outside, load the account stuff, then the server stuff, then the character stuff. But my instinct is also not to muck with code that works unless I'm really willing to spend some time digging into it to convince myself that I'm not going to break something that assumes this specific ordering of loading. So we're just going to annotate what each one of these is and leave it at that. Commented the scope of each data in load data. That's just an internal thing for me, so we don't need to put that in the README. Okay, so this is what we were on the way to do. That little one. All right, cat is not going to come up here yet. Okay, that's good. That's all good. So we're back to load data. So in load data, the ones that we're looking at specifically, character specific data. So this is the load settings file character. Awesome. If our settings equals version 1, then upgrade to version 2. Awesome. So in the prior save formats, where we're going to have to do something else, this was the festivals. Okay, so that was festivals. So that was happening here. There was supposed to be something for in-progress quests. Apparently, this was messed up in some way. So we're going to go ahead and make a new file, festivals, the 2.20 to v21.lua. Okay, so we want this, right? So let's go ahead and copy a couple of things. So update festival buddy from version 2 to version 2.1, and okay, we want this. And I always feel a little weird starting or ending text, or having text on the starting line or ending line, dating back from days of including files that just literally just paste the contents of other text into this one during parsing. Okay, so we have an update function that we can run. And in main, we can go ahead and take a look at this. If settings version equals version 2.0, then we want to go ahead and import this thing and try again. And then we can go ahead and say setting version equals version 2.1. And then just to make sure we're in the right place, let's go ahead and comment this out for sure. But do a quick little turbine.shell.writeLine of the name of the function. And then I want to go ahead and dump out the contents of this dot in progress quests. Cool. So if we go ahead and come on into my current data, Treebeard Affodil, Festival Buddy settings. This is the one we're playing with. And what we want to do is in the in progress quests, we want to go ahead and pull in that block that we saw before. Okay. So this, in progress quests, we have numbers. We don't know for sure that this is the problem that Little Redhead was seeing. I might poke at our computer later just to see. But we do know that it is a problem that I'm seeing with my characters. And so I'd like to write this as a fix for my stuff anyway. And then if it's also a problem on hers, awesome. If there's a different problem, even better. We'll be able to look into that. So we want to hopefully see the contents of this. And in fact, let's go ahead and not do the version number update. I want to see this every time. Okay, so, no, attempt to call blah, 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 a nil value. Okay, that didn't work. So this is line 156, the thing that we just did. So we want to come on in here. And we can see we had deleted something from the name, so that was just copy paste error. Okay, so we can see, we do see the values here that are incorrectly string number instead of string name. That's a pretty easy fix. So let's bring in this. Any numbers in progress quests refer to this, to these values. with a note that any of these should be changed to Farmers Faire instead of summer. Okay, so what we want to do is for any in progress entries that are quest key festival number, convert to quest key festival key. Awesome. So if settings equals no, then okay, that's fine. And then for quest key festival festival key, in that do if festival key, if the type of festival key is number, equals number, and I think yeah, type equals number. Great. So if that equals number, then end, and then what we want to do is say if festival key equals 2, then festival key equals 6, and then end, and then we can do the final thing, which is to say settings in progress quests, quest key equals, all of that sounds good. So we can get rid of that. So that's the general idea. So in order to see what that looks like, we can come and load this in and unload and then load it in again. Okay, and we can see that all of these got converted. We have some midsummers in here, we have some mules in here, all of that looks great. Now, this is pretty safe to run all of the time. It doesn't need to be run during a specific update. Because assuming these are strings and not numbers stored, then all it takes is a little time to double check. But I think it's fine to go ahead and bury this in an update. And in that case, we're going to go ahead and stick that settings update version update in there. Go ahead and update and unload. And then we'll see when we load, we do not rerun that code. Awesome. So what does it look like in here? We're going to go ahead and minimize quest guide. And then in progress quest, we can see all of these got converted over. Awesome. Now, some of these, we should probably time out in progress quests eventually, because they're no longer in progress once you've failed them. So I guess the question is, what do we do when a quest is failed? So if we fail a quest, we should filter failed quests. Awesome. We should clear the selected quest. But what we're not doing is clearing it out of that array is what it looks like. So let's add a to-do note. When a quest is failed, also clear it from in-progress quests. Yes, Talirin points out failed quests are announced in chat. And Festival Buddy will actually pay attention to that, because when you have a quest up, let's say you have a fistful of flowers, If this were failable and you did fail it, it would go ahead and clear this as a visual indicator that you're no longer working on this quest. But we have an array of quests that we think you're working on, and I'm not convinced we're updating that properly. So what we're going to look at is, what do we have here? Lightning in a bottle. Let's go ahead and pretend to fail lightning in a bottle. We're going to come down to our debug section of our plugin manager, and we're going to go get the exact spelling of this. So, lightning in a bottle. And we are going to, and hey, Tellurian, good to see you in chat. We're going to go ahead and fail this. Oh no, we failed it. And then we're going to go ahead and unload. And what I'm expecting, oh, maybe not. In progress quests. Okay. Okay, so there's two explanations. Either Festival Buddy wasn't auto-loading, in which case we didn't see that the quest was failed, or, the more likely thing, quest failed dialogue could have happened before the plugin was loaded, and so we never had the chance to see it. Either of those is quite possible. Bam in chat says hello. Hello! Although most people in chat do not speak Russian, including me, if that was Russian. If you want an easier response, English I think is recommended here. Okay, so we have seen, actually did we see? Firefly. We have, and what was the name of the one we just got rid of? Lightning. Okay. So I think if we got rid of the Emerald Firefly quest, Emerald Firefly Lanterns, if we failed that, and then unload this, we should expect we no longer see it. Okay, so we do have code that if you're logged in will handle removing that from in-progress quests. Okay, it's not a huge deal if entries do stick around, but I think what the right answer is, or right is so subjective. I think what unanswer is if you manually switch to another festival. So for instance, let's say I switch from spring to midsummer. It would be quite possible to go through these entries and say, hey, you just switched festivals. The following quests, we still think they're active from other festivals. Do you want to clear those out right now? That could be a thing we do. We could just do it automatically. Like, if you're looking at other festivals, we just assume you're done tracking these things. I think I would have been more hesitant when Summer and Farmers Faire were split apart, and so there was reason to bit back and forth between festivals. But now, if you're in a festival, that could be a reasonable thing. It's just, when you change festival, any in-progress quests that are not the festival you just changed to are cleared. This is really just used for... Where do we use this? Yes. If you've said we should pay attention to this in the background, Therian says perhaps make an option. First, Julian said, true, quest failed while you're logged out, or the festival ended will be hard to track. Perhaps make an option, clear dormant festival quests with the default yes. My worry is that that's such a user-unfriendly dialogue to pop up for people who don't know what a dormant quest is, or whatever wording we might use. I think there's no way anyone would be like comfortable with that. But for anyone who doesn't know, if you're in Farmers Faire, there are a couple of quests like Fat Mare which benefit from us paying attention to chat for that quest, even if you're looking at something else. Like usually I have accepted Fat Mare and then I'm doing one of the other things like a market list. And so Fat Mare has a background option, which is to say it will keep looking for things that the Fat Mare says even if you have a different quest selected. Which is probably a feature almost no one understands because there's a checkbox marked background. What on earth does that mean? So that's why we care about what quests we think are active. And this is really just a possibly misguided attempt to not have to parse everything that comes through chat for every possible quest under every festival kind of thing, or even under the current festival. We really only want to care about chat messages for the current quest or maybe any backgrounded quest that we think is active. So I feel like the in-progress quests are only there if to service backgroundable quests. So that's the first thing is, why are we saving any in-progress quest if it's not even backgroundable? Yeah, Tullian says, what I meant was the option would be active. If you're doing Midsummer Quest, well, Spring Festival Quest seem to be active. You can clear Spring Quest, yeah. Another person, in chat says, would it be possible to make a plugin text-to-speech similar to World of Warcraft's? I know there are several people who are playing around with that. There's a few problems that they have to overcome, which is right now the plugin interface, the plugin API, doesn't have granularity over what information you see on the screen. You can tell that you are talking to a specific NPC. You can tell that you've accepted a quest, but what you can't easily tell is which quest of an NPCs you're currently interacting with, reading on, pressing continue, that sort of thing. And there are sometimes a few clues, like if you press continue and you get something in your inventory, that can help narrow it down. But there are some people working on this challenge, which is a plugin could, if you go talk to an NPC, like if I go talk to, I think Theoden standing over there, if I select Theoden, it could pop up a little box saying, hey, would you like us to read aloud quest dialogue? Pick one of these quests that you're interacting with. And so you could click that, and then the plugin could then do something. And here's where the problem is connecting a plugin to something that can play audio. Because by default, in the current situation, plugins cannot cause audio to trigger. But plugins can write out to standard chat. And so anything that's paying attention to the chat logging, chat capturing file could know that a plugin wants something to happen. I think Prime has, the Prime plugins have something like this. I don't know what method they use to start playing audio, but that would be a method that you could use. And so a plugin can communicate with the outside world, but the outside world can't really communicate back to the plugin. So the plugin could write out, start playing this thing, and just kind of hope that happens. But the outside thing couldn't then easily tell the plugin, hey, I'm done playing this thing. So there are a lot of challenges to getting a plugin to do that kind of text-to-speech. But it's not impossible to do some variation of it, and I know there are people who are working on it. Tolarian, yeah. They might also do a write text to file to be TTS. Yeah, so there are people who are looking into that kind of thing, and they're looking at, say, the LOTRO Companions data dumps to get kind of the raw data that they would need for that kind of an experience. And I know for people that have issues reading and would really like to have an audible experience, there's definitely advantages to that. I don't know how good the text-to-speech would be with just an alphanumeric interpretation of the text. You might do better if you had a way to have IPA-style formatting or more detailed examples of pronunciations of names, especially proper nouns in Lord of the Rings. But the basic experience, like you could get a lot of the what is going on with TextQuest without working too hard at it, probably. So yeah, there are people who are thinking about that. Maybe check in on the forums and see if any of them are talking there or in other places. Okay, so Tolarian says, I would like to implement a please send text to TTS in the quests panel. Yeah, you could imagine that kind of thing, where just looking at this, just next to the filtering, you could just have a little audio button that you add that says, just do your best. Use a very basic text-to-speech engine. Maybe update the program to allow users to install their own text-to-speech engines, whatever. And just have a button that says, activate the current TTS. Yeah, that's a thing that could be done, but right now I don't think that's on the developers' timeline. So people who are really interested in that kind of a support, whether it's through a plugin or whether it's through in-game, and I think in-game would be fine. These buttons are all over the place. Add another button that's just like, talk it to me. Say whatever's on this panel that's meaningful to say. If enough people say, hey, this is a really important accessibility issue because I don't read so well in this language, but I understand spoken much better, or I just don't want to read that much. I didn't come here to read a book, though you may have misunderstood the intention of the MMO at that point, but that's okay. People get to experience it their own way. I think if enough people speak up and say, yeah, this is an accessibility thing for us, please come up with something, that might get it into their minds that, oh, what can we do that kind of bridges this gap in a reasonable way, but doesn't take thousands of person hours to accomplish. And getting that little bee in their bonnet, as it were, doesn't hurt to do it now, because maybe it's not going to happen in 2024, but maybe it would happen in 2025. Maybe it could happen in 2024. Maybe they've got a proof of concept ready to go, and they just need more people to say, oh yes, we want that, before it's worth trying it out. Anyway, as always, with a major feature request like that, it never hurts to post on the forums and say, this is really important to me because, and then, explain why it's important to you. Because I can't see so well, and while I can interact with the game just fine, the text is really hard to read, and the plus and minus buttons over here only do so much, and blah, blah, blah. Help them be in your shoes and understand why this is an important feature to you. But in case you didn't know about it, there is a plus and minus button over here in the bottom left of the quest, which can make it easier to read this quest text if you didn't know about that. Awesome. Thanks for asking. Yeah. So, other thing that I'm noticing is a lot of those quests that showed up in the in progress do not have a backgrounded feature in the first place. So that was Midsummer. If we look at Emerald Firefly Lanterns, there's no backgrounding thing. So that's odd. The only reason we're tracking this that I can see is for if the quest is backgrounded and it's in progress. So we go through the trouble of adding it there. Check for in progress that it's completed or failed. We go ahead and zero it out. Great. Yeah, so I guess a thing that I'm wondering is why are we adding this all the time instead of just in backgroundable stuff? Second question, how do we know if something is backgroundable in the first place? And I wonder if there's something in globals, right? Background. Quest is backgrounded. Sure. Backgroundable quest. Look, we only have these 3 quests. These 3 quests. Okay. I think we need to check if the thing is even backgroundable before we add it to that other thing. So, where is this using? And is it progress? Okay. Local is quest backgroundable equals backgroundable quests quest key, I think. Yeah. What's quest is backgrounded? Quest is backgrounded. I almost feel like here it should be backgroundable quests and is backgrounded as a short circuit. But again, there's only 3 of them. Okay, so is it backgrounded? Is it backgroundable? And is it backgrounded? Okay, we're going to go ahead and spell it out like that. But that still raises the question, what's going on with in-progress quests? And again, I don't care about the other, the upgrade functions right now. So, should process chat. If it's backgroundable, and that, great. And festival functions, filter new quests. So we're adding it, but what we really want is quest backgroundable equals backgroundable, yeah, equals that. If is quest backgroundable, then go ahead and update that. So right away, we're going to limit participation in the is in progress quests table to those 3 quests that we've enabled this for. Which is bonkers. Brief fireworks, fat mare, bounder rounds. Yeah. And I don't know why brief fireworks is backgroundable. I don't know why I thought that was important, but only add to in progress quests if the associated quest is backgroundable. Okay. Great. And then if we complete our failed quest, then go ahead and iterate through that. That's fine. That's fine. Number of in-progress quests. Great. Okay. So the next thing would be, during this upgrade, I'd like to prune everything that shouldn't be there. So we're going to go ahead and unload. And we want to go ahead and... Is there a version in here? There is. We're going to pull that back to 0. We want to go ahead and prune any entry that doesn't correspond to a backgroundable quest. And for that, it's actually going to be the same style of iteration, but we're going to go ahead and make local entries to delete. And we'll go ahead and use consistent language here. All right, entries delete equals a new table. Remember, you don't want to you don't want to add or remove entries in a table while you're iterating through it. You probably don't want to edit the key of an entry either while you're iterating through it, because you'll get unpredictable results, including but not limited to partial iterations through a table, and then it just says, oh, we're done. So local entries delete for, we actually want to iterate through again. And in this, if, now we already had some ideas here. So, is quest backgroundable? If not is quest backgroundable, then entries to delete table.add entries to delete quest key. Table.append might be what we want. Really? What am I missing here? Table.add. Insert and remove. Great. Insert. Lua. Alright, so table.insert, we're just going to get a table with numerical keys and these values, and that's fine. So we're iterating through everything in the in-progress quests. If the quest is not backgroundable, we're going to go ahead and say we want to delete that, and then for... Is there for each? No. Yeah, that's other languages. For index quest key in entries to delete, pairs of entries to delete, do. And for that, we just want to go ahead and say settings.in progress removing quest key from in progress quests. Great. In progress quest of quest key equals null, because that means the next time we persist it out, that entry doesn't get included. Okay, so what does that look like? Let's go ahead and bring back in the in-progress quests that we lifted from a different character, just like that. And what we want to see is at the end of this, only quests that are in that list of 3 are still in here. And we'll get a little debug statement out here. So let's take a look at this. Okay, so we can see we started with all of this. We then removed a bunch of these things, and then we'll go ahead and unload. And when we look at the save file, great, none of them. None of them. However, if we wanted to go ahead and try that one more time, but add in one of the ones that can be there, we would go ahead and say, fat mayor equals something. I don't actually remember. All right, Farmers Faire 6 equals 6. In fact, let's go ahead and say it's equal to 2 just to make sure we see that converted. So, in progress quest, we can see Fat Mayor got converted to Farmers Faire, and it's still in here. All right, I'm going to say that with this change, I've stopped caring about entries where the quest fails or is otherwise canceled, but the plugin's not loaded. Because we're only using this for, right now, 3 quests, and it just does not matter to me if you don't actually have one of those 3 quests active. It suddenly got much better. So I think that's enough for this particular thing. So let's come on in to, we're going to say that's fixed. So general, yeah, this isn't really a user-facing change any more than we've already said, which was 2.0 to 2.1 to force a check of in-progress quest data. We're just going to say update in-progress quest data. Awesome. So let's come on into our changes. We want this. We don't want all those outputs, debug statements. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of that. And these 2. Cool. Coming on back. Any more turbine statements? Don't see them. Okay, great. We have in addition to that, in main, we go ahead and make use of it. Not doing that, not doing that. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and do that. Yeah, we're going to start with this. Cool. So we're going to go ahead and start with that, and then added check. Make sure quest. Is this important? If the quest is backgrounded, it can only be backgrounded if it is backgroundable. I think this was nice to work through mentally, but I don't actually think this change adds anything. I think it confuses the issue, because we don't allow you to make a quest backgroundable without it being backgroundable. Sorry, you make a quest backgrounded without it being backgroundable. So this is inherently this is inherently true if this is true. If this is false, this is irrelevant. So yeah, I don't think we want that. But keep non-backgroundable quests out of in-progress quests. That's lovely. We want that. Awesome. Now, the specifics of the problem. And actually, if Little Redhead is available for a minute, you sent me a bug issue for one of your characters. Do you remember who you were logged in as? You were doing Boss from the Vaults. Cool. Can you actually send me a file in Discord? We'll find out. The file that we're interested in is inside of your Lord of the Rings online directory. No. And so what you would do is you would open up a browser, go to Documents, Lord of the Rings Online, plugin data. You would go into your account and your server and your character, and there's a file in there called Festival Buddy Settings. So for instance, I'm on server Treebeard, this is character Affodil.
Does that matter?
Okay. Yeah, so inside that character folder is something called Festival Buddy Settings.plugin data, and that's where the file is that we're talking about here. Well, we'll see. If Rose is able to send me that, I'm curious if the problem is they also had a text to number table, or if there's something else. So if we're able to get that, we'll dig into it even more. In the meantime,
What file?
oh, looks like the answer is yes. We're going to go ahead and open that up. So, in progress, well, that's funny. There's a summer quest. That's not good. Okay, but that is excellent for knowing that if one of those keys is summer, then we need to fix that as well. So let's come on in. Thanks very much for sharing that, Little Redhead. Okay. Also, this has nothing to do with Lord of the Rings Online, but I was amused that in the upcoming Magic the Gathering release, which is called Outlaws of Thunder Junction, that they have included both a cunning coyote and a resilient roadrunner who has protection from coyotes. That pleases me. I don't actually play Magic the Gathering, but I appreciate that combination. Okay, I have gotten that file. So we want to come in and we want to say, hey, in this update function, if any entries were summer, and actually we can do that in here. If there were any summer entries, convert them to, and actually I really feel like we should delete any entries first. Okay, so we delete any entries that doesn't correspond to a backgroundable quest. Cool. And then for any in-progress quests that are festival number, because we didn't care about the festival key, that was fine. Convert to this. If there are any summon entries, convert them to Farmers Faire. If settings.in-progress quests of quest key equals summer, then we want that to be equal to this. And because we want to be kind of proof from future changes, we are just going to go ahead and hard code this string instead of using the variable. Now, we happen to know, I think, that just pruning all the ones that shouldn't be in there, there are no summer ones that should be in there. There are 2 Farmers Faire, but there's no summer ones. Okay, yeah. There are no summer ones in there. But just in case, this shouldn't happen, as there were only 3 backgroundable quests at this point, and none were in summer. But let's go ahead and see this in action. So we're going to go ahead and bring in, where did those go? Yes. We're going to go ahead and bring in Going Hungry. And it's going to be a mix here because we're going to go ahead and replace the in-progress quests. Oh, actually, let's include Fat Mare in our list here. And so the final list for testing that we've got right now is going to look like this. We're going to have a mix of numbers and string, and we're going to have some that are in summer that we need to convert to Farmers Faire, but we're also going to prune them anyway. So for that, we want to go ahead and I do kind of regret getting rid of the debug statements already, but it's okay. We also need version. We also need that version to be 0. So if we go ahead and load this in, no problems here, and unload, then what we should see is only the Fat Mare Farmers Faire quest remains. That's going to solve, I think, the specific problem that Little Redhead was saying. Was that key summer in the festival functions on line 90, was it?
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, we can see festival functions, Lua 90. Great. Though we've added or removed some lines since now. So quests festival key. The problem was that festival key was not valid. Now, we could safeguard ourselves and say, look, if the thing doesn't correspond, then just get rid of it. So we could actually have a local bad entries equals this. And then if this festival key doesn't correspond to an actual entry in quest, add it bad entries and then go through and delete all the entries. Totally possible. Feels like overkill for this situation. But I think that's what was happening is Little Redhead had an entry that escaped our notice. There was an in-progress quest from Summer that shouldn't have been in there. We fixed that. We're going to prune it away. And because that was there, but Summer no longer exists, which was a change we just recently made, anyone who was completing quests, this line here was going to fail. Well, I feel comfortable with that change. What that's going to result in is for Little Redhead's case specifically, if we come in here and replace in progress quest with that, and then go find our version, change it to 0, let's just see what happens to her data. So we're going to unload that, and then in progress quest, she's going to end up with an empty one because none of those were ones that we cared about. We should never have been tracking them. And that means after this upgrade, whenever she logs in with a character, it's going to delete those excess entries and stop causing her to see that message on any character that had a Summer entry. But that was super useful seeing the specific file that was failing because it wasn't a number thing like I thought. In fact, the conversion went great. The number thing really is just kind of for me at this point. But we'll leave it in there because it doesn't do any harm. So, note, this probably only applies to the developers' files as they didn't all get upgraded. As many got a partial upgrade. So this could actually get fixed in 2 goes though. Oh, sorry, in a single loop. We have a lot of stuff here that feels unnecessary. So if the quest is not backgroundable, we're going to delete it. Else, what if we had this? If the type of festival key is a number, and go ahead and account for the Summer and Farmers Faire parts, then this equals that. And that takes care of the Summer to Farmers Faire conversion as well. But then we prune everything, loop through in progress quest, and do the following. Delete any entry that doesn't correspond to a background quest. All right, double check that the thing exists that we're about to loop through. Awesome. And then we already have that. That doesn't matter. Okay, so let's simplify this down. We have a single loop that if it's not supposed to be there, we're going to delete it. If it is supposed to be there, then, and if it's still a number, then go ahead and convert it. We know that there aren't any summer entries that are going to survive the pruning. So we don't actually need to accommodate that. We could. In fact, we could say if festival key equals 2 or festival key equals summer, then it's going to be 6, which is Farmers Faire. And then we'll go ahead and just set it equal to this, equal to that. Okay, cool. We've got all our bases covered, even a base that should never be reachable. So let's go ahead and reset this. So version, we're going to set the version back to 0. And in progress quests, we're going to set that back to our do a little bit of everything. And let's go ahead and just load it and see what happens. Awesome. So when we come back in here, in progress quest, we can see we just have the 1. That's what we want. But feels a little weird to have that much of change going on and not really know if what we wanted to have changed actually changed. So what we're going to do, and actually I'll just copy this whole thing over so we can just not hunt down specific changes. So what I'd like to do is actually see a little bit of the what's going on. So turbine.shell.writeLine, deleting quest key from in progress quests. Great. Otherwise, we want to have a upgrading quest key. And actually, we could just say in progress quests dot quest key from number to string. That was festival key. Awesome. The redhead says, "Hey, anyone in chat know what the word for /stuck is in the German client?" Yeah, there's a really useful thread out on the forums. So useful. And what it is I think Thurlor put this together way back when, and we can see it's Sitzefest. If it is still correct. Yeah, Delirian says /Sitzefest and /block in French.
Oh, wait, Sitzefest in German?
Yeah. Oh, apparently there's a /unstuck. Is it just the same as /stuck? I kind of assume so. Delirian, does stuck and unstuck do the same thing? Anyway, so yes. There are 2 commands. Yeah, so Vitterfry is /unstuck, and Sitzefest is stuck. Awesome. What if I want to restuck? So, super useful. I assume it's pretty accurate. There are a few that are missing, I think, lookups here, and this was last put in 2014, so any new commands since then wouldn't be in here. But super recommended if you do development for multiple platforms. All right, save that off for later. Redhead says, "It worked. They said thank you." Yeah. If you're doing development in multiple languages, I recommend saving a shortcut to this page or just downloading it. It's super great, especially for developing. You might want /LOC. So /LOC, we can see it's /POS for position, probably in German, /EMP in French. And it has lots of emotes in here as well. Those emotes are probably the thing that you're missing the most of when you when you move forward 10 years in time. but a lot of the developer stuff, or if you're trying to reply to someone, /reply is antwoorden, which is great. Répondre. Neat. Okay, so we have our entries to delete. We've added some text. We're going to go ahead and load this, and we can see deleting all of these things, and really that was all we needed to do. Awesome. So let's add some comments. If it's not backgroundable, we don't want it in progress quests. Okay. If it is, double check that the number to festival conversion happened, and that we don't have a rogue summer reference. Perfect. Delete anything that needed deleting. Add it to a table for later deletion. And again, you don't want to delete things. Oh, actually, we're just setting it to nil. We're not actually deleting it. Oh, that's so much easier. Let's double check that. But yep, in progress quest. Right, because we're not actually deleting them from the table when we set the entry to nil. We are just setting the entry to nil, and during serialization, it goes ahead and prunes nil entries for us. But the table would still have nil, and we can demonstrate that if we go ahead and reset that file, and then we go ahead and say turbine.shell.writeline, and just in progress quests, dump in progress quests. Can't do that. Settings dot in progress quests. Oh, the dumping of it also skips those. That's frustrating. Okay. Hey, little one. Come on up here. Yeah. I know you sat on my lap so nicely earlier, but you're not in the mood right now. Oh well. So if it's a table, then we're doing for each pairs. If the type is number, then that, and can you know set in Lua, can you set a table entry to nil while iterating? Does setting a value in a table to nil while iterating over it cause undefined behavior? Okay, so it's a undefined if traversal you assign a value to a non-existent field in the table, but you can modify existing fields and you can clear existing fields. Okay, I feel okay with that. So, we've gone ahead and condensed that even more. We're not going to bother, because we're just setting things to nil and we're not changing things, changing the keys, adding new entries to the table, deleting old entries. By setting them to nil is fine, but adding entries is where it's a problem, and here that's no concern. Okay, so let's go ahead and reset that value. And we're going to go ahead and load this, unload this, great. So no, don't need that anymore. And we can see our in progress quests. Is just the one that we expect to be in there. Awesome. My goodness. Okay, what if we had said Fat Mare was summer? Should never have happened, but if we did, that didn't get changed. Oh, of course, because we've already checked that to be number. Okay. Else, if festival key equals summer, then this equals Farmers Faire. So nip that. Okay, that gives us an... All right, so that let us test the conversion of the summer. It was in the wrong place because we had already filtered on the type being actually a number. But if it's not a number, and if the key itself is summer, then we'll go ahead and change it to Farmers Faire. Again, that's redundant code that should never happen, but we really can't afford a summer to slip through here because that will not work because we removed summer. So, okay, I feel like that is enough and possibly overkill. So we're going to go ahead and commit this. So, what did we change when it comes down to it? Really, we just consolidated these two. Tidied up code that updates in progress quests. That's probably all we did. Okay. And actually tested it in a couple different scenarios. That's always nice. Okay. So, we were able to test with the file from Little Redhead what was causing our crash, and that was the presence of summer, which is a festival that no longer exists and was an oversight. That was an actual bug. So, bugs. Okay, that's probably too much detail, but just describing in the README file that too many entries are being saved. Summer entry should have been updated to Farmers Faire when summer was removed in 2.1.1. Okay, cool. So that is good. They were the same failure in both places and probably triggered by her data having that bad entry in it, which caused the lookup to fail, which caused the function to stop processing for that particular quest. Now, it didn't actually cause any problems in general because it was just a callback for the chat handler, but it's nice to not have errors in chat. So we're going to call that done. Okay, so in progress quests, quest key to festival needs to be converted. That actually was converted. Awesome. So, all of that being done, let's double check where we are. To do file updates. And readme file updates. Cool. So, something Tellurian, I think, reached out about was that right now we are only supporting English in our /loc parsing. And that was an oversight that I should have fixed a long time ago. So we're going to close some of these extra text windows that I've opened up. Now, I've just noticed that it is coming up on the end of the stream here. So the first thing I want to do is just say, I probably lifted this code from Waypoint. So what I want to see is, what does the Waypoint code do for this? So we're going to go to the LOTRO Plugin Compendium. That wasn't what I clicked on. LOTRO Plugin Compendium. And we want to add the Waypoint plugin. So, Waypoint by Lunar Water. So we're going to go ahead and add that in. Great. And under Lunar Water Waypoint, we want to go ahead and see how are we doing the parsing here. So, what we want to do is grab this directory, and we're going to open up another Visual Studio Code, just a new window. And we're going to go ahead and file open folder. That one. Sure, I trust the authors. Lunar Water's pretty cool. Okay, Waypoint. So in Waypoint, we have /loc messages. Nope, not that window. So we have /loc messages. And here's where I want to compare is what do we have in Festival Buddy? We can see Festival Buddy got very Englishy specific. The Waypoint just has these R whatever, LX whatever, LY whatever. So it starts there. So how much of this is the same? And looks like a lot of it, and possibly whatever isn't the same, is actually a mistake on my end. So what I would think is that these would have been better to not add UR on to. In fact, why did I add that? I don't remember. Maybe I actually pulled this from something else, like I probably pulled it from something, a different plugin. Let's go look at RT plugin. So open folder, go ahead and select that. And what we want to see is same thing, LOC messages. They didn't do it. Well, I don't know if I chose to do that or not. The only, maybe reminders? Reminders cares what server you're on, so they would actually want to process that first bit. But if I did that, I might have only pulled from the English ones and not the rest of them. That's server name detect. That is so weird. Okay, this looks like me being hoisted by my own petard because these are so English specific for the purpose of knowing what server you're on for a plugin that doesn't care what server you're on. Actually, do we care what server you're on? Hang on a second. Where is LOC messages used? Just here and just here. So we're doing a match. What's up with R? Oh, that's so weird. We're matching. How does this even work? All right. So the long and short of it is, I think I possibly, or whoever I was inspired on, to borrowing these codes, and this is part of the problem, is that there's not one library that knows how to parse these messages. Every plugin that wants to parse messages is kind of reinventing the wheel, and so I or whoever I was inspired by has English text in here when we did not need that in order to fully parse these messages. And fully parsing the messages is fine, but it was only fine if you pay attention to what server you're on and you have language appropriate strings for that part. And that's something I did not do. So we want to go ahead and call out in our to-do items. So that's really the next thing. So log messages is not localized. Go ahead, extract it to a library and make it work on all languages, all servers. Cool. Fortunately, the hedge maze works even when it's not Spring Festival, so you can just go in there and test things, which is convenient. Okay, so that's the next thing we're going to do, I think. And by next week, the Spring Festival should be over, but I don't think that what we did today is necessarily important enough. Maybe it is. Maybe I'll do a release just because there was another bug in there as well. But either way, what I want to tackle next is making it so the /LOC works on other clients. and probably I'll put out a library that is just the parsing of these messages, because we don't want every plugin to kind of reinvent the wheel. We just want to say, hey, is this a /LOC message? And if so, please give me a table back with each of the elements of it. What's the server? What's the what's the name of the server? What's the actual server number? What's my R? What's my LX? What's my LY? What's my OX? All of these things that can be in there. Just give me a table with them. Have them be null if they're not there because I'm not inside or whatever. Is inside. Have a little flag for that. All of these things. Just have a library that can do that you can just plug into your plugin if you care about it, and that way there could be a single source for that, for updating that. Like every plugin that uses it would still need to be updated unless it was in a separate directory, but I don't know. Anyway, yes, there should be a single place where people can look for this instead of, why not pull it from this other plugin? Because there's a bunch of different variations on these. So we really want to just have one authoritative source. It doesn't have to be me, but I might put one out there anyway. Hello, little one. Yeah. I have a Casper with me. Is he tall enough for us to see? Hey. What's up, little one? Yeah? Did you hear that I was about done? And so you were like, no, you're not going to get off the stream? I want to be here and be cute? Yeah, is that what you heard? It's not what I heard. But your ears are much better than mine. Don't fall over when I stop petting you, huh? Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Well, Casper's going to sit here for a minute. Awesome. So I think we're going to go ahead and leave it there. Maybe Casper thinks it's time for snacks. I don't know. So that being said, I don't see anything else I wanted to talk about. And I think we're caught up in chat. Oh, Gnarnar says thanks. You're very welcome. And with that, yeah, that's all we are going to cover today. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration of LOTRO plugins. Hope to see you here next week. Right, Casper? Yeah. And until then, keep plugging along. All right. Bye-bye now.